Please like the video and share it so that it reaches many more people and you get sawaba, or rewards from Allah. This could be a sawabe jariyah or continuous reward for you long after you are gone.
Volume 5, Book 59, number 509. Narrated by Salama bin al-Aqwa. We went out to Khaybar in the company of the Prophet. While we were proceeding at night, a man from the group said to Amir, "O Amir, won't you let us hear your poetry?" Amir was a poet, so he got down and started reciting for the people poetry that kept pace with the camel's footsteps, saying, "O Allah, without you we would not have been guided on the right path, neither would we have given in charity, nor would we have prayed. So please forgive us what we have committed, i.e. our defects. Let all of us be sacrificed for your cause and send sakina, i.e. calmness, upon us to make our feet firm when we meet our enemy, and if they will call us towards an unjust thing, we will refuse. The infidels have made a hue and cry to ask others help against us." The Prophet on that asked, "Who is that camel driver reciting poetry?" The people said, "He is Amir bin al-Aqwa." Then the Prophet said, "May Allah bestow His mercy on him." A man amongst the people said, "O Allah's Prophet, has martyrdom been granted to him? Would that you let us enjoy his company longer." Then we reached and besieged Khaybar till we were afflicted with severe hunger. Then Allah helped the Muslims conquer it, i.e. Khaybar. In the evening of the day of the conquest of the city, the Muslims made huge fires. The Prophet said, "What are these fires? For cooking what are you making the fire?" The people replied, "For cooking meat." He asked, "What kind of meat?" They, i.e. people, said, "The meat of donkeys." The Prophet said, "Throw away the meat and break the pots." Some man said, "O Allah's Apostle, shall we throw away the meat and wash the pots instead?" He said, "Yes, you can do that too." So when the army files were arranged in rows for the clash, Amir's sword was short and he aimed at the leg of a Jew to strike it, but the sharp blade of the sword returned to him and injured his own knee, and that caused him to die. When they returned from the battle, Allah's Apostle saw me in a sad mood. He took my hand and said, "What is bothering you?" I replied, "Let my father and mother be sacrificed for you." The people say that the deeds of Amir are lost. The Prophet said, "Whoever says so is mistaken, for Amir has got a double reward." The Prophet raised 2 fingers and added, "He, i.e. Amir, was a persevering struggler in the cause of Allah, and there are few Arabs who achieved the like of good deeds Amir had done." Volume 5, Book 59, number 510. Narrated by Anas. Allah's Apostle reached Khaybar at night, and it was his habit that, whenever he reached the enemy at night, he will not attack them till it was morning. When it was morning, the Jews came out with their spades and baskets. And when they saw him, i.e. the Prophet, they said, "Muhammad, by Allah, Muhammad and his army." The Prophet said, "Khaybar is destroyed, for whenever we approach a hostile nation to fight, then evil will be the morning for those who have been warned." Narrated Anas bin Malik. We reached Khaybar early in the morning, and the inhabitants of Khaybar came out carrying their spades. And when they saw the Prophet they said, "Muhammad, by Allah, Muhammad and his army." The Prophet said, "Allahu Akbar. Khaybar is destroyed, for whenever we approach a hostile nation to fight, then evil will be the morning for those who have been warned." We then got the meat of donkeys, and intended to eat it. But an announcement was made by the announcer of the Prophet, "Allah and his Apostle forbid you to eat the meat of donkeys, as it is an impure thing." Volume 5, Book 59, number 511. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. Someone came to Allah's Apostles and said, "The donkeys have been eaten by the Muslims." The Prophet kept quiet. Then the man came again and said, "The donkeys have been eaten." The Prophet kept quiet. The man came to him the third time and said, "The donkeys have been consumed." On that the Prophet ordered an announcer to announce to the people, "Allah and his apostle forbid you to eat the meat of donkeys." Then the cooking pots were upset while the meat was still boiling in them. Volume 5, Book 59, number 512. Narrated by Anas. The Prophet offered the Fajr prayer near Khaybar when it was still dark and then said, "Allahu Akbar." Khaybar is destroyed, for whenever we approach a hostile nation to fight, then evil will be the morning for those who have been warned. Then the inhabitants of Khaybar came out running on the roads. The Prophet had their warriors killed, their offspring and women taken as captives. Safiya was amongst the captives. She first came in the share of Dahiyah al-Kalai, but later on she belonged to the Prophet. The Prophet made her manumission as her ma. Volume 5, Book 59, number 513. Narrated by Abdul Aziz bin Suhaib. Anas bin Malik said, "The Prophet took Safiya as a captive. He manumitted her and married her." Thabit asked Anas, "What did he give her as ma, i.e. marriage gift?" Anas replied, "Her ma was herself, for he manumitted her." Volume 5, Book 59, number 514. Narrated by Sa'al bin Sa'd as Saidi. Allah's apostle, and his army, encountered the pagans and the two armies fought, and then Allah's apostle returned to his army camps and the others, i.e. the enemy, returned to their army camps. Amongst the companions of the Prophet there was a man who could not help pursuing any single isolated pagan to strike him with his sword. Somebody said, "None has benefited the Muslims today more than so and so." On that Allah's apostle said, "He is from the people of the hell fire certainly." A man amongst the people, i.e. Muslims, said, "I will accompany him, to know the fact." So he went along with him. And whenever he stopped with him. And whenever he hastened with him. The brave man then got wounded severely, and seeking to die at once, he planted his sword into the ground, and put its point against his chest in between his breasts, and then threw himself on it and committed suicide. On that the person, who was accompanying the deceased all the time, came to Allah's apostle and said, "I testify that you are the apostle of Allah." The Prophet said, "Why is that? What makes you say so?" He said, "It is concerning the man whom you have already mentioned as one of the dwellers of the hell fire. The people were surprised by your statement, and I said to them, I will try to find out the truth about him for you. So I went out after him, and he was then inflicted with a severe wound, and because of that, he hurried to bring death upon himself by planting the handle of his sword into the ground and directing its tip towards his chest between his breasts, and then he threw himself over it and committed suicide." Allah's apostle then said, "A man may do what seem to the people as the deeds of the dwellers of paradise, but he is from the dwellers of the hell fire. And another may do what seem to the people as the deeds of the dwellers of the hell fire, but he is from the dwellers of paradise."